Hello everyone, we are walking into our second week talking about the book of How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Awesome book, came out in 1936, we talked about last week. He did a lot of research into Abraham Lincoln's life as a leader and his early life, Dale Carnegie did. And one of the stories that he tells is how when Abraham Lincoln was younger, he used to write letters that would criticize people that he wasn't a fan of, specifically in politics. And he would leave them along country roads so that he knew that people would find them. And one time it got him into some real trouble. It ended up getting back to the politician that he criticized, and Abraham Lincoln was chased down and actually challenged to a duel. Thankfully, some of the people that were, I guess, a part of his entourage stepped in from both sides and stopped this from happening. And I think that, the point from that story is that it can be really easy to criticize, but it doesn't serve you very well. We always justify our decisions, right? Even when we make a mistake, we justify our decisions. Well, I made that decision because of X, Y, Z. We made the decision because of the best information that we had at the time. And we all do this. And so when we can be reminded of this, it's not just I that makes these decisions that are often wrong, but everyone around us does as well. But we're not actually able to help anything move forward by criticizing, condemning, or complaining. That's not actually helping create solutions to move things forward. So after that, focusing on, what not to do, Dale dives into what do we all crave? What do we all desire? We all have this desire for appreciation. We want to have an impact in the lives of the people that are around us. We want to have an impact in our community, in the lives of our family, and in our friends. And so he says, when you recognize that, then we need to give that to people when it's merited, of course. And I know this is an area where has been a weakness for me and continues to be something I'm always working on, but recognizing the good, pointing it out, focusing on the positive, and actually sharing that with the people in my life. And Dale makes a really good point here. He says, we're really quick to provide nourishment to our family. We want to make sure that there's food on the table. We're building their bodies, their physical bodies, are taking care of their physical bodies, but are we building their self-esteem? Are we building them up as people? There's always things that we can pick apart in the people that are in our lives. There's always things as people are picking apart your life and what it is that you're doing wrong, right? But if we can focus on that, that's what builds our relationships. My wife's doing things that I appreciate. How am I communicating that to her? When your kids are making great lengths and strides in their learning, or how will you communicate your appreciation for that? Or when your team at work, when they work through a challenging situation, because we all have challenging situations at work, when your team rises up to the occasion, are you actually encouraging them and lavishing them with sort of praise and uplifting and encouraging them? Because that's what we need. That's what builds up those relationships. It's going to allow us to be able to move forward and take on the next challenge because they trust you. And it takes energy and attention to focus on those things and to recognize those things. It's more challenging than it is, I think, to actually pause and to criticize and complain, which you talked about earlier. I think it's easier to do that than it is to dig in and find the good in people all the time. But what's really interesting is as I've been learning and as I've been growing in my relationship with Christ, as I get more focused on what his purpose is in my life, then my sense of importance actually comes from him. So, it's really important to remember, as we're looking to give that to other people in our own self, we can start to recognize that when we're moving towards God's purpose, our importance and appreciation doesn't have to necessarily always come from the people around us. We all need it, but it doesn't always have to come from because we're working on what God's calling us to. So we are incredibly important in his eyes. When we get that sense of appreciation and importance from God in our life, from Christ in our life, from the Holy Spirit, it's going to allow our light to shine. And people are going to wonder, well, how does that work? And it's going to give you opportunities to share and encourage people to go after what God's calling them to go after in their life, to God's calling their purpose in their life. And now you're a light on a hill, right? And we're pointing people back to Jesus. And I think that's an incredibly powerful way to walk into your relationships. So if you haven't grabbed a copy yet of How to Win Friends and Influence People, we'll put a link in the show notes. Please make sure you grab a copy. It's an incredible book that you want to have in your library. And I look forward to diving into some more concepts and ideas that are very applicable. We'll dive into those next week. Have an awesome rest of your day. We'll talk to you next week.